All right, I'm going to show you how to convert a repeating decimal to a fraction. So we're going to start off with the simplest kind. And for example, when I want to convert 0.444444 into a fraction. So you want to get the decimal in two different places. You want it to be just to the left of the repeating unit, which is 4, and just to the right of the repeating unit. So step 1 is just to take your number and assign it to the letter n. So we're going to say n equals 0.4 repeating. And then look at the arrows and figure out what do you have to do to get the decimal in those positions. Well, it's already in the arrow here right before the repeating unit. It's already there. So I don't have to do anything for this case. But I also need to move the decimal just to the right of the repeating unit. So in order to do that, I have to multiply this number by 10, which means you need to jump the decimal one place to the right. So I'm going to take my original equation and multiply it by 10 on the left and the right. So it's 10n equals, decimals jumping one place, it's going to be 4.4 repeating. And so you still have this 0.4 repeating, because if you think about your it's really 0.44444 forever. So if I move the decimal one place to here, it's going to be 4 point, and you still have this repeating 4 piece, so that's why that's there. Now you're going to take these two cases and subtract them. So taking the larger one, the 10n equation, put that at the top. Subtract the smaller one. Make sure you line up the numbers and line up the decimal on the right side. And when you subtract, what should happen is the repeating units should cancel each other out. So the piece to the right of the decimal should be identical, because 4 repeating minus 4 repeating is going to be 0. So they're gone. Then it's just 4 minus 0 is 4. And then 10 n's minus 1 n, there's an invisible 1 there, leaves 9 n's. Now you need to solve for n, so I need to divide both sides by 4. And n equals 4 nines. Then make sure you can't reduce it any farther, which you can't in this case. So 4 divided by 9 would give you 0.4444 repeating. All right, example 2 is, let me make sure I'm still, is also a simpler one. Let's do 0.8 repeating. And we want to convert it to a fraction. So I need my decimal to be just to the left of the repeating piece, which is 8, and just to the right of it. So step 1, say n equals your number. And then look at the arrows. Now the starting number already has the decimal in this position, just to the left of the repeating unit. So this n equals equation is already one of my two cases. But I also need to get it to the right of the repeating unit. So in order to do that, I need to move it one place to the right, which is multiplying by 10. So 10n equals 8, because it's now here, I've moved it here, 8.8 repeating. Now those are my two cases for the two arrows, so I'm going to subtract them. Take the larger equation, put it on top. Subtract the smaller one. And then my repeating units should cancel out, and they do. 8 minus 0 is 8. 10n minus n leaves 9 n's left. Divide both sides by 9. and n equals 8/9. So you should see a pattern here, this dividing by 9. So if you have one repeating number and it's just to the right of the decimal, then all you need to do is put a 9 in the denominator for your fraction. So that's a shortcut, but you also have to know how to do it the long way. Let's do a different type. So example 3, let's go with 0.23 repeating. So both the 2 and the 3 are repeating. We want to convert that to a fraction. All right, so I need my decimal to be just to the left. The repeating unit is 23 because it goes 0.23232323. So I need my decimal here, and I need it here. So step 1, say n equals 0.23 repeating. And then this first equation happens to be this case already, where the decimal's to the left of the repeating unit. So I don't have to do anything for this one. To get it to the right of the repeating unit, I have to multiply my original number by 100 because that's 2 decimal jumps to the right. So I'm going to take my original equation, multiply it by 100 on both sides, and I get a 2,3. It's now here. But you still have 2,3 repeating after. This is still there because your number is like that, and so on. So when you move the decimal to here, you still have this 2,3,2,3,2,3 part. The hardest thing with these is just getting these two cases, really. Okay, subtract. And the largest equation on the top, 3.23 repeat minus n. Line up your decimal, that's really important. Once people get these equations, they're pretty good at getting equations. The number one place for making mistakes is subtracting. Especially here, maybe because it's pretty simple that people don't think about it, but 100 minus 1, or 1n, is 99 n's. Be careful of the subtraction. On this side we get 23, then I have to divide by 99. So n equals 23/99. And if you notice this time, oops, hang on. In this case we had 2 digits repeating, 2 and 3. So you need to put 2 9s in the denominator when you make your fraction. Whereas up here, we only had 1 digit repeating, so you put 1 9 under the number for the fraction. All right, now let's get one that's not quite as simple. So 0.015 with only the 5 repeating, convert to a fraction. Now, we need the decimal to be only the 5's repeating, so I need the decimal to be just to the left of the repeating digit and just to the right. So those are the 2 cases I need. But, well, let's just go ahead and start. So your first step is still to say n equals your number, 0.015 repeating. And in the previous cases, this starting point was also one of your 2 cases. It was because the decimal was right to the left, like here. The decimal's already in this position, so I could take my starting point and call it one of my 2 cases. Here you can't. So you have to get the first case, I have to move the decimal 2 places to the right. So I'm going to multiply by 100. 100n equals, and that's going to give me 1, 2, 1.5 repeating. Now I need to go back to the original number again, and I need to get the decimal to be just to the right of the repeating unit. So I'm multiplying by 1, 2, 3, or I'm multiplying by 1,000 because I need to move 3 jumps. So that's 1,000 n equals 15 point, and this is the hard part, there's still 5s coming after this, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So 15.5 repeating. These are the two cases you're subtracting. It's not the starting point. This part is only a starting point. It's not one of the two equations. That confuses people sometimes. Okay, so we're going to subtract these two. So I have 1,000 n equals 15.5 repeating minus 100 n, line everything up, 1.5 repeating. Subtract, repeating digits cancel, 1 from 15 makes 14. Be careful here, 1,000 minus 100 is 900 n's. Then I need to divide both sides by 900. And I get n equals 14 over 900. Now, that's not the end though, because that can be reduced. I can divide, they're both even, so I can divide both by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. And I should get 7 over 450. And that doesn't go any farther, so that is your fraction.